I know you were probably sitting in your living room Saturday night saying, Illinois doesn't have a game this week. We're not going to get inside the Illini weekly. Wrong. We're here. No days off during the football season. We don't do that. We got a jam-packed show here today. We got to talk about everything that happened on Saturday. We got to preview this upcoming weekend. Even though Illinois doesn't have a game, doesn't matter. We still have games coming on Saturday. They lost to Ohio State at home. Tough game. Around the Big Ten, Indiana made a statement on the road at Oregon. We're going to look ahead to this weekend and make some game picks. And then since Illinois doesn't have a game, we're going to do a little midseason check-in with the Big Ten and the SEC. And then we're going to talk about James Franklin here at the end of the show. Let's get to it. Ohio State, Illinois. Buckeyes come into Champaign, win it 34-16 on the road. Man, Illinois just gave this game away in the first half. Maybe gave it away isn't the right term, but they lost it in the first half. Standing on the sideline, my reaction, and then watching the game back, my reaction is the defense deserved better. The defense actually played really well pretty much the entire game. Ohio State went right down the field, first drive that they had, and kicked a field goal. After that, really nothing that the Illinois defense gave to Ohio State when Ohio State didn't have a short field. There were a lot of question marks still all year for this Illinois defense, and again, I thought they played really, really well on Saturday against Ohio State. A really good offense that Ohio State has, a lot of playmakers at every single position. They really limited Jeremiah Smith. Couldn't really get the running game going, could the Buckeyes? The thing that plagued them was that Ohio State just had the short field the whole game. Pretty much every drive that Ohio State did something offensively and certainly scored, they had a short field. These are the scoring drives for Ohio State. 67 yards field goal. That was the first drive of the game. 35 yards touchdown, 25 yards field goal, 26 yards touchdown, 63 yards touchdown, 24 yards touchdown. They had 2 scoring drives that were longer than 35 yards. You're not going to beat a good team that way. You're certainly not going to beat the number 1 team in the country that way. I just thought the Illinois defense played well under the circumstances that they were given. A lot of quick turns to get back onto the field after the offense turned it over or something crazy happened. And they held Ohio State. When Ohio State had to drive the field, like I said, they only did it twice in 4 quarters. Now, they only had to do it twice, but they only did it twice. Their longest play from scrimmage was 22 yards. Illinois made them work for it, and Julian's saying 166 yards, 6.1 yards per attempt, only 106 rushing yards on 2.9 per attempt. The Illinois defense played really well. Ohio State was just set up in so many perfect situations that Illinois really couldn't overcome them. And then the defense, if there was one thing that they didn't do to really help Illinois try to win this game, was they didn't force a turnover, which that defense has been pretty good at the last couple of years. They didn't do it on Saturday. Here's Bret Bielema after the game talking about those mistakes that led to Ohio State points and where he sees the rest of the season going. This is Bielema postgame.
As bad as that first half was with the turnovers, the unique downing of the punt, to give them several possessions inside the plus 50 and to have as few points, I thought that might give us a little bit of hope, but we just weren't able to really ever get anything going. Just not a lot of things went our way, but we got to create those moments. I tell them all the time, before you can win a football game, you got to stop from losing, and we lost that game. It was just too many things that we gave them. A good football team like that, you can't spot them opportunities and expect to have success. So just a lot of things that it's kind of what it is. We can correct it, we can make some things, but also, when a couple things go against you. Literally, when I saw we put the knee down on the punt, I'm like, what else could happen, right? Like, that was kind of one of those woes me. But if you begin to feel that way and you accept it, you're never going to get anywhere. So I'm super proud of what we accomplished, but it also is a good indicator that we're nowhere close to where we need to go to get this thing to be more consistent on a good basis, and it's good against a really good team.
Pretty much agree with everything he said there. I mean, yeah, the knee down on the punt was just brutal. It was just brutal. You're going to punt the ball away. Ohio State's going to have a long field. It's a low snap, and your punter goes down and takes a knee, and Ohio State had the ball at the 30-yard line. just a brutal first half for Illinois. Tried to bounce back in the second half, but the game was over at that point for the most part. The offense, it just didn't do quite enough. Outside of the turnovers, which obviously were a huge story in this game, they really didn't move the ball effectively at all. They scored 10 points and then another touchdown in kind of garbage time. Ohio State's 24 out of 34 points were off of turnovers and that kneel down, which was essentially a turnover on downs. And then a strength for the Illinois offense, and they haven't had a ton of consistent strengths this year with the offensive line being up and down, the running game not really getting going, was that they haven't turned the ball over. Luke Altmaier had a pick, kind of on a bounce play. It got deflected up into the air. Ohio State picked it off, and then he fumbled late in the game. Khalil Valentine fumbled there in the game. But Luke Altmaier, he played pretty well for the most part. Just wasn't a lot of room on the outside, and they couldn't really get the running game going either to open up lanes on the outside. So it was a tough day at the office for all of Illinois, the team, and certainly the offense as well. They couldn't help their defense enough and get them off the hook for anything, really. It was I think it was 17-20 to 3 at halftime, and at that point against the number one team in the country, there's not really anywhere else to go. Again, no running game for this Illinois offense against Ohio State. This was Aiden Lawfrey's first game back. He's missed the last few with an injury. He was all right, 6 yards a pop. You'll take that. Caden Fagan couldn't really get anything going. Khalil Valentine got hurt in the game. When you can't run the ball at all and you become one-dimensional, especially against a talented team like Ohio State, who they have covering guys on the outside, you're not going to be successful. And they weren't very successful. Now, they were down pretty quickly in this game, so that probably led to not being able to get that much of a running game going, but still, you have to run the ball better than this. Here's Luke Altmaier post-game. He talked about where this team is right now and the game against Ohio State and how they can bounce back and how the mistakes were just so not what we're used to seeing from an Illinois team.
I don't think it was because we were necessarily doing the wrong things. The first one, balls in the air tip. And they did a good job of their ability, showed up. We made a few more mistakes that just you can't happen. Khalil, a rare fumble, and then the last one, they brought a unique pressure that was from depth, and I get a half second, and I'm throwing a first down ball, but they did a lot of good things to do them. They didn't make any mistakes. That's why they're the number one team. And like last year, Oregon didn't make any mistakes because they're the number one team. They got a lot of ability, great, and they play with a lot of confidence. So, we're not going to hang our heads at all. We'll learn, obviously, and again, we ain't lose any confidence, at all moving forward because we've been through this. We've lost, and we've been able to bounce back and use our abilities to be great. So, we're excited to go play again. I'll tell you right now.
Now, Illinois is in an okay spot. Even after this game, at least they didn't get their doors banged in like they did against Indiana a few weeks back. They're 5-2. They're a good football team. And now they have the bye to really resettle and try to figure some things out that haven't worked that well so far this year. I still think the running game and the offensive line, you got to figure something out there for the stretch run. And look at those last 5 games. Do any of those teams scare you? Certainly the last 4 don't scare me. I think Washington, on the road at Washington, is the toughest game left on this Illinois schedule. And they have an extra week to get ready for it, to get through that game, and then you really have 4 games to end the year that you should not lose. It's the latest bye in the Power 4, 7 straight games to open the year for Illinois. And now they have some time to rejuvenate themselves, get healthy. They have been banged up a lot so far this year. They finally have a week to just relax. I'm sure they're going to practice still, but you know what I mean. They have time without something hanging over their head Saturday to just rejuvenate the team and make sure that everybody's good to go for the stretch. They will have another bye week coming up in a few weeks. Interesting point, they haven't lost a game out of a bye week under Brett Bielema so far. So that's good news, especially with a tough game coming on the road at Washington. Let's turn gears. Indiana, what a win on Saturday on the road in Eugene against Oregon. What a win for Indiana and Curt Cignetti. There's a good case to be made that they should be number one in the country. They're number 3. I think there's a case that they should be number 1. I mean, that defense just shut down the Ducks. Just shut them down. Oregon didn't move the ball at all. Really through the whole game. They had a long touchdown. I think it was 45 yards. Long touchdown. A second touchdown was a pick 6. Oregon's offense couldn't do anything. And these are the offensive statistics. It's not like Indiana's offense played that great either, but they did enough. And they didn't have a pick 6 to help them out either. I mean, if you said, hey, Indiana's going to have 300 total yards and throw a pick 6 before the game, everybody would take Oregon. But no, Indiana can win in so many different ways that they become a real threat to win the Big Ten, to win the national championship. They were not that last year. Everybody kind of saw through them. This year's different. This is a really, really, really good football team. I mentioned the pick 6. This is Oregon's drive chart for the game, just to kind of drive this home. Turnover on downs, punt, touchdown, field goal, punt, missed field goal, punt. This is the second half now. Punt, field goal, punt, interception, interception, end of game. Indiana's got a really good offense, but man, they've got a pretty good defense too. It's been a pretty good Oregon offense all year long, and Indiana on the road went into Eugene and shut them down. Like I said, last year they were not a threat to win the Big Ten or the national championship. Hoosiers are for real. Hoosiers are for real. Bama and Missouri. Man, I wanted Missouri to win this game so bad. I did pick them last week. And they had a chance there at the end. They had a chance. 27-24, Bama wins it. It was 27-24. Missouri got the ball back with a chance to go drive down, tie it, or win the game. And it was just a brutal, brutal pick from Bo Pribula to end the game. Bama escapes a good Missouri team, and they're just managing a pretty brutal schedule that they have. They've played, I think it's 3 ranked teams in a row the last 3 weeks, and they've got another one here this weekend. They're just managing it, and they shut down the guy that they needed to shut down. You knew Bo Pribula could do some things offensively for Missouri because he can run, he can throw it. Missouri was going to score at least a little bit, and I'm sure Alabama knew that, but Ahmad Hardy, who I told you last week I thought was maybe the best running back in the country, completely shut down. 12 rushes for 52 yards. He was coming in averaging well over 100. And, he's really what drives that Missouri offense. If he's not moving the sticks for them consistently, they can't move the ball consistently, and that's what Alabama did. And even with that, still Missouri had a chance to win the game at the end. So I still think Missouri is a very good football team, and they have a pretty manageable schedule for SEC standards. And the Bama offense did just enough. Didn't need a heroic effort from the Bama offense. Jam Miller made an impact again for Alabama offensively, and they did just enough, and the defense came up huge when they needed it. Man, Bama just impresses me every single week. You thought they were dead after week 1, the way that they lost to FSU, and they're not. The defense is outstanding. The defense is really good, and the offense does just enough. And again, this is a high-flying Missouri offense. The Missouri defense, their stat profile really was a lot better than I expected even to see last week. And you put up 27 points on a top 10 defense in the country probably. You're going to win a lot of football games, and Bama's really good. Missouri I still think is pretty good, but Bama, they just continue to manage these games and come out with a win. And they're certainly alive in the SEC race, and They don't have an SEC loss, and certainly they're a national title contender. Games coming up this week. First, 1-2 week for us last year. The Missouri game hurt. It hurt. We dropped back down to 500 against the spread. Still 12-8 straight up, which I'd like that record to be a little bit better too, but we're going to try again this week. We got 3 games on the docket that we're going to talk about here coming up on Saturday. Ole Miss at Georgia, Saturday at 2:30 down in Athens. This is going to be a fun game, I think. My first thought is that the Ole Miss offense has been great all year long, and the Georgia defense has been okay, just okay. I don't think we've seen the Georgia defense of a couple of years ago where they just say, you're not doing anything today. We're not letting you have anything today. We haven't seen that from Georgia yet, and Ole Miss's offense has been running up and down the field against really anybody that they've played outside of maybe last week. It was a weird game at Washington State. But Georgia's probably going to have to score some points in this game, I think. I think Georgia's going to have to score some points in this game to win. We've seen them do that this year, though. On the road at Tennessee, they couldn't stop Tennessee to save their lives, but they still battled back and won that game in overtime and scored 40 on them on the road. Obviously, a very impressive win. I think that might be the kind of game that we're going to see again. The quarterback for Ole Miss, a big reason why the offense has been so good, Trinidad Chambliss, he came in, we're missing his face there, but he came in a couple of weeks into the season for a hurt Austin Simmons. He's been really good so far this year. He can run it. He can really zip it too. So he's been pretty impressive at the quarterback position for Ole Miss. This is the first big road test for him so far this season. His first big game was against LSU a couple of weeks ago, and he started very shaky. Is he going to do that again this week? Time will tell. Let's get to the pick. Ole Miss and Georgia. I think this is just a prove it to me Ole Miss situation. I really like the offense, but sometimes when you're making these picks, you just have to take a coach that you trust. And Kirby Smart is one of those coaches. Give me Georgia. Again, I think a touchdown in the hook is a little much for this game because Ole Miss is a really good football team. So I'll take Ole Miss to cover, but prove it to me, Ole Miss. I think that you're a very good football team, and it's just so hard to win on the road in the SEC. So I'll take Georgia to win, Ole Miss to cover. Another SEC game, Tennessee at Alabama, traveling down to Tuscaloosa are the Vols. Night kickoff at Bryant-Denny Stadium. It's a scary place to be. It's a really scary place to be for a visiting team. Can Alabama stop them is the initial question I have. Can they stop them at all? And it's not because Alabama has a bad defense. It's because Tennessee has the best offense in the entire country. The best offense in the entire country. You want to nitpick them? Okay, they've turned it over 9 times. But that's it. I mean, they run the ball, they throw the ball, and they score a ton. I'm not sure that Alabama can stop them enough to win this game because Tennessee's got a decent defense. Alabama's got a pretty good offense. But I know that Tennessee has a great offense. Bama can stop the pass. They can't really stop the run, which I guess if you're playing Tennessee, you'd rather stop their passing game than their running game, but it really is a pick your poison, I think, situation. Listen to this. Tennessee is top 20 in the country in third down conversion rate, their offense. That's about 50%. The Bama defense is 72nd in the country on third down defense. They give up a first down about 38% of the time. With all that being said, I picked against Bama last week. I'm going to pick them this week. I think we're due for a Joey Aguilar floor game, and we haven't seen it this year so far. He's been great for Tennessee all year, slings it around everywhere. I just think night game at Alabama. I think we're due for it, and it won't make me think less of him as a player. Everybody has him. I'm just going to stop doubting Alabama, and I'll take Alabama to win. Again, 8.5 feels like a lot, so I'll take Tennessee to cover. Last one for us here. USC on the road at Notre Dame. This is always such a fun game. These schools hate each other, and that's what makes college football so great. When schools hate each other. This game's on WAND, by the way. You can watch it right here. Big ramifications for the entire country for the rest of the season, whoever wins this game. The question I have in this one is the Notre Dame defense back? Did they figure something out? The first 3 weeks of the season, terrible. Terrible defense. They gave up 94 points in the first 3 games. Now, they played some pretty good teams, but still, that's way too much. They've given up just 27 in their last 3 to get to 4-2. Can they cover USC? Because USC's offense is really good, and they can really throw it. Jaden Mayava is a really good player, and C.J. Carr's a really good player, the Notre Dame quarterback. I think this game is points, points, points. I don't know if either defense can stop either offense. 2 really good quarterbacks, 2 really good running backs. Edge Notre Dame in the running back category. 2 really good wide receivers. Edge USC in that category. Mekhi Lemon is just a monster. We saw that in person against Illinois a couple of weeks back. Points, points, points. I think as an Illinois fan, if you're trying to decide who to root for in this game, I think you want USC to win because they're more likely to pick up a second loss than Notre Dame would be to pick up a third loss. And if you're thinking playoffs still, as an Illinois fan, you need teams to come back a little bit. And Notre Dame already has 2 losses. I don't think they'll get in with 3. So I think you want USC to win this game and hope they lose another game down the road because you beat USC. So you would have a quote-unquote tiebreaker against USC if that came down to it. My gut says to pick USC. The total, or the spread is 8.5 for Notre Dame. I think that is insane that Notre Dame is laying 8.5 points to USC. And my gut says to pick USC. For that reason, I'm picking Notre Dame. I don't think this point spread makes any sense, which gives me pause to take it. So I'll take Notre Dame to win this game and to cover. Plus, I'm giving you a rarity, a rare over. Like I said, I don't think these defenses can stop either team. Over 61.5. We'll take that too. Notre Dame wins and covers. Again, as an Illinois fan, I think you want USC to win. All right, because Illinois doesn't have an opponent this week, we've got nobody to scout, we've got nobody to look into. Let's check in on the Big Ten. What's it look like here about halfway through the season? These are the standings. Typical at the top. These are teams that you thought. Ohio State, Indiana, USC, Oregon. You see Illinois down there at 12th. I would not freak out that they're 12th yet. If they lose another one, yes, I would freak out. I'd be very surprised, let's just say this, if the Big Ten championship game is not between 2 of 3 of Ohio State, Indiana, or Oregon. Would be very surprised if another team made that jump. I think USC is a good team. Do I think they're Big Ten championship caliber this year? Probably not. Probably not. I think Ohio State and Indiana are the clear best teams in the Big Ten. If you're Illinois, you're down there at 12th. You need to get to 4th. I think they can jump everybody ahead of them except Ohio State, Indiana, and Oregon. Now, Oregon could lose a second game, and you could end up having the technical tiebreaker over them to be in 3rd place, but you've already lost to Ohio State and Indiana, and I don't think that either of them are going to end up with 3 Big Ten losses. Penn State being bad really helps Illinois this year. Like I said, they've got a very manageable schedule, does Illinois. Washington next weekend, if they win that game, they have a chance to get to 10-2. And you don't want to be 9-3 because we saw last year what 9-3 gets you, especially if you haven't beaten anybody, which Illinois' best win is without a doubt USC. And outside of that, there's really not much there on the resume. So 10-2, it'd give you a chance, not to play in the Big Ten championship game, and that's okay, but to make the 12-team playoff. I think the Big Ten title game is going to be Ohio State, Indiana. I don't think that's crazy to anybody. I just don't really see. Maybe Oregon could sneak in there, but outside of that, I don't really see any of those other teams log jammed at 4th or Illinois being able to make their way into the title game. All right, let's get to the SEC. The SEC is just a jumbled mess. It is just a mess atop the league. And everybody's going to say, oh, here comes SEC Machi. Here he comes, just talking SEC. No. I didn't grow up an SEC guy. Relax. But this is the best conference in college football. You can't really argue it. Let's pull up the standing. Let's just pull up the standings. They have 10 teams in the top 25. And you could say, oh, well, the SEC. They're the SEC. That's the only reason they're ranked. I think the only team that maybe you have an argument to not be ranked is Texas, because they haven't really wowed me at all. They did beat Oklahoma, but how good is Oklahoma? We don't know. Man, look at this. 5, 4, 6, 9, 10, 11, 21, 16, 14, 17. Just a log jam at the top of the conference. Ole Miss and Texas A&M are sitting in first right now. They're undefeated in the conference. Alabama's still undefeated in the conference. Do you trust Ole Miss and Texas A&M? Because I'm not sure I do. I'm not really sure. I mean, we're going to find out this weekend with Ole Miss when they go to Georgia. Texas A&M, they have a pretty manageable schedule for SEC standards. Ole Miss, their schedule's pretty tough. I think Georgia, A&M, and Mizzou have the most manageable schedules so far. But I wouldn't be surprised if there's no SEC team that finishes the year with less than 2 losses. Wouldn't be surprised if there's not an SEC team with 1 loss or no losses. I think Ole Miss will fall eventually, maybe this weekend. I think A&M will lose at some point, maybe a couple of times. Oklahoma, if you're holding out hope that they can make a run and get into the SEC title game, their schedule is ridiculously hard. It's like every single week is a top 10 team. I really have no idea who's going to win this league. No clue. I would maybe lean Alabama at this point because, they stumbled in week 1, but they've beaten Georgia, they've beaten Vandy, they've gone on the road and beaten Missouri. Just some good teams. But, man, your guess is as good as mine in the SEC. No clue. Overall, the playoff picture. I don't love to talk about it halfway through the season, but we're halfway through the season. We can take a peek. We can take a peek at what the playoff looks like to this point. These are with the AP rankings because we don't have college football playoff rankings yet. So this is what it would look like if the season ended today and we were going off AP rankings. Ohio, the asterisks there, they mean that you're the automatic qualifier, you're the winner of your conference. It's just based on, who's in first right now. So Ohio State and Miami, they win the Big Ten and the ACC. Indiana, they're the 3 seed. Texas A&M wins the SEC, they're the 4 seed. Texas Tech wins the Big 12, they are the 7 seed. USF down there at the bottom wins the group of 5 playoff spot to be the 12 seed. There's a lot of things I hate about the 12-team playoff, a lot of things. But of course, there's some good that comes out of this. I mean, Texas Tech bringing LSU into Lubbock, Texas would just be mayhem. It would be one of the most dangerous cities in the world that night. That would just be so much fun. Oregon versus Georgia would be a great game too in the first round. Just another thing to remember is that they changed the rules. You don't have to win your conference to get a first round bye. It's just the top 4. When do we get that first ranking? First college football playoff rankings are released November 4th. So we've got about 3 weeks. There's 6 SEC teams in there right now. I don't expect that to stay the same. I think they get 5 max because everybody's just going to lose to each other. And I think the Big Ten will get at least 3. Which is what they have right now, maybe a 4th if USC or, who knows, maybe Nebraska runs the table, Illinois if they're 10-2. That's all on the table. Really, really excited for a fun end of this year. And Illinois, they've got a chance, guys. They've got a chance. They've got a chance to get there. Before we go, one quick thought. The time finally came for James Franklin at Penn State. He was fired Sunday after the Nittany Lions dropped their 3rd straight game to Northwestern. To peel the curtain back a little bit, I grew up rooting for Penn State football and James Franklin. While it was obvious to most that followed the program, including myself, he was not going to get the team over that big game hurdle, Sunday really wasn't a celebratory day for me like it was for a lot of Penn State fans, at least on social media. And social media. Sure, there was some relief that knowing at least we're not going to do the same thing again for like the 8th straight year next season. But I did feel a little sadness. Illinois fans have been through the same thing with various coaches, Ron Zook to Lovie Smith. James Franklin willed Penn State out of its darkest times when Bill O'Brien didn't stick around to see it through. And there were still a lot of highs. A Big Ten championship, multiple New Year's Six bowl wins, just never the big one. And because of James Franklin, that program is in a position to fire him for not winning the big games. And now the page turns to who knows what. The Penn State fan base was as united as I've ever seen a fan base against a coach. So it was probably time. But you better get it right now. Matt Rule has the obvious connection to the school. But are you really sure that he's a better option? I'm not. We've seen schools in very similar situations make very similar decisions as Penn State did this weekend. It worked out great for Georgia, going from Mark Richt to Kirby Smart, a couple of national titles. It did not work out for Florida, going from Dan Mullen, who won 10 games a lot, to Billy Napier. Right now, I agree that it's a worth risk-taking for Penn State. There were so many chances over the years to break through, and you cannot keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. College football's changing. The days of undefeated national champions or even maybe one-loss contenders, they're racing away quickly. But still, by making this decision, the question for Penn State in 5 years could very well end up being, would you rather be in the big games and lose them or not be in them at all? That's our show. Looking forward to next week when we can talk about another Illinois opponent. Washington. Heading on the road to Washington. Out west, it's always scary to go out there. Really looking forward to it. Enjoy your weekend off from Illinois football. I know I always enjoy a bye week from teams that I root for, just to relax, sit back, and see the entire sport as a whole instead of focusing in on one game. So enjoy it. We'll be back next week, and we'll be back the next time that Illinois has a bye, because there's no days off during football season. See you next week.